Hello all and welcome to the 8th video of the GMAT Advanced Target 700 series. This is the 8th installment in the 50 video series for verbal that we have prepared, which will help you in getting your target GMAT score, which for most candidates would be above 700. And it might mean the difference between any candidate who's struggling at, let us say, a 650 to 700 range to kind of breach the 700 mark and get their desired scores for GMAT. Okay, so today what we are going to do is very, very interesting. We are going to look at how do you tackle long passages. Okay, before we get started, let me elaborate what I mean by long passages. Okay, so passages that come on the GMAT can broadly be divided into two categories depending on the length of the passage. Generally, a short passage is a passage that is between 250 to 300 words long. Uh, there is also a lot of analysis that you can do and figure that typically a short passage will be followed by 3 questions, right? So 250 to 300 word passage followed by 3 questions. The long passages, on the other hand, they will generally be 300 to 350 words. Some of them might again be in the 350 to 400 bracket, but definitely not more than 400. These passages, sometimes you will see they are followed by 4 questions. Now, there is no hard and fast rule. A short passage might get followed by 4 questions. A longer passage might get followed by probably 3 questions or even lesser. Okay, so we are nobody to comment on what to expect in the actual GMAT exam. But more or less, and in 90 to 95% of the cases, you will see that short passages have 3 questions, longer passages have 4 questions. Now, the crux of the difference in how you have to tackle these passages lies in how you read these passages. Okay, so today we are going to discuss a technique. A lot of you would be familiar with the technique. A lot of you would have separate variants of the technique. I will discuss our own take on the whole mapping technique, which we strongly recommend students do. And in today's session, we will just discuss the technique. In subsequent sessions, we will look at the questions that are associated with this particular passage. So let's jump right in. This is an example of a slightly longish passage. Okay, as I said, 400 to 400, 350 to 300, sorry, to 400 words, either between. This is generally the overall limit. Typically, you will see the passage will have 300 to 350 words. Some will be 350 to 400. Now, the current passage belongs to the 350 word bracket. It is approximately 350 words long, this passage, the one that we are going to see today. Now, before we get into how to map out the whole thing, let me show you the entire passage. So as you can see, there are multiple paragraphs. When we will read the passage, we'll see what each of these paragraphs is covering. The technique that often you come across, across different forums is primarily mapping. Okay. Now, everybody has a separate take on mapping. Some people suggest that whenever you read a passage, you must prepare a mental summary or kind of like, even a written summary of each of the passage. So, for example, one school of thought of mapping says that you must prepare a small summary of each paragraph. What a lot of candidates do is that in doing so, they jot down pointers with each passage. Okay, so let us say they say paragraph 1 contains 1, to 3 important things, so on and so forth, right? Now, this is not the technique that I'm going to discuss today. We will discuss mapping, but certainly not in this particular way. Now, why not this particular way? You see, when you will be giving the GMAT exam, you will be under a lot of time pressure. If you get down to jotting pointers for each passage, it might take even longer for you to read the passage, right? Now, if it becomes difficult for you to read the passage, in the stipulated time, what it will have is that it will have an impact on the overall time you have available for doing all verbal questions. A lot of time, what happens is that candidates end up spending so much time on reading comprehension questions that it just derails their whole exam. They end up doing the reading comprehension probably well, but they end up rushing in some of the other sections. Okay, so this is a very, very time consuming approach. So I'm not going to recommend that you jot down such kind of pointers whenever you are reading the passage. So what do I mean by the whole mapping technique? The mapping technique that I am going to recommend is that you make a mental map of what lies in what part of the passage. So let me give you a real example of a passage that you can expect to come in the GMAT exam. Let's go through it. Adequate quantity and reliability of infrastructure are key factors in the ability of countries to compete in international trade, even in traditional commodities. The competition for new export markets is especially dependent on high quality infrastructure. Okay, so this is kind of like an introduction. Okay, as soon as I read it, I feed into my brain that the first passage is a introduction and not a very specific introduction. This is kind of like a generic introduction. Okay, now let us read this passage. One approach to assessing the economic returns from infrastructure investment is to examine the rates of return in a large sample of completed projects. The average economic return on infrastructure project, re-estimated after loan disbursement or completion of project construction, have averaged around 15%. Returns have been lowest and declining for irrigation and drainage airports. For a very small sample, railways, power, water supply, and sewerage. Why should this be so, given the expected benefits of such investments in developing countries? Now, what are the two things that this passage is primarily doing? One, it is discussing the approach to assess economic returns. Okay, they are saying you just calculate the rates of return, also known as ROR. Okay, then they are giving you a benchmark, and then they are introducing a dilemma. You know that why this ROR is going down. So what has happened? Let's look at our map. We have the intro in the first paragraph. Then we have an approach that is very well related to the intro. Okay. Then what we have is a benchmark. Then what do we have? We have a conundrum, or we can also call it a dilemma. Let's look at the next paragraph. Some of the causes related to implementation problems and others to project identification and design. A common pattern discovered in project completion reviews of water, railway, and power projects is the tendency at the time of appraisal to overestimate the rate of growth in demand for new production capacity and therefore of revenue. Now, what is this passage doing? Look at it very carefully. This is trying to give one explanation. Okay, this is not the definitive explanation. This is just one explanation of what exactly? Sorry. One explanation of dilemma. This kind of feeds back into it. The previous paragraph is saying, why should the return be going down when there are so many expected benefits of such investments in developing countries? right? The second passage is saying that some of the causes of this might relate to implementation problems and to project identification and design. Probably you identified the project wrongly. Probably you designed the project wrongly. Okay. At the time of appraisal, to overestimate the rate of growth. What is this? This is another. You overestimated the rate of growth, right? So what is the solution for this dilemma? We have seen that there is a dilemma. There is a possible explanation for this dilemma, and this explanation has 1, 2, and 3 branches. Okay, so just stick with me with the map and the different elements of this particular map that we are building. For the power projects in the sample, demand was overestimated by 20% on average over a 10-year operating period. In water projects, the overestimation of rates for new connections and per capita consumption also averaged about 20%. In the case of railways, until recent years, projects often assumed recovery in demand, even where railways were continually losing traffic onto roads offering better service. In 29 of 31 cases, freight traffic failed to reach its projected level, and in 1/3, traffic actually declined. Right? Now, what is it doing? This particular passage in my map, it is giving me examples. And examples of what exactly? Examples of possible reasons of the dilemma. What is the dilemma? That why is the rate of return for such projects going down even when they are badly needed in developing countries? Okay, so what we have seen 3 reasons. We have seen rate of growth, project identification, and design. Okay, one is project identification, second is design, and 3 is the rate of growth. Okay, so here you have the rate of growth. One example of rate of growth. Okay, rate of growth was 3. So this was an example of, or the possible, or we will call it the example of the third hypothesis. Right? Now this is a problem of identification. You are saying that traffic is being lost to roads. Okay, what are you doing? You are not identifying the project correctly. So this is an example of 1. In 29 years of 31 cases, in 29 of 31 cases, freight traffic failed to reach its projected level, and in 1/3, traffic actually declined. Okay, so this is an example of both 1 and 3. Why is it an example of 1? This is an example of 1 because 1 says about project identification. So you could not identify that traffic was being lost to roads. Why is this an example of 3? 3 says rate of growth. Okay, so it says traffic failed to reach its projected level, which means the growth was not good, right? And in some, the traffic actually declined. So if you look at the whole map, this is basically an example which is trying to embolden the position that has been taken in the previous paragraph. Let's look at the next one. One important explanation for the misjudgments during appraisal is inadequate procedures for assessing demand, including the effect of tariff increases. Oversizing and inappropriate design of investments then occur, resulting in financial burdens on the project entities concerned. If you look at this particular passage, this is kind of like the heart of the whole passage. Okay, and where does it go in our map? Now we have a dilemma. We have a possible explanations for the dilemma. Okay, we have examples of these explanations, and now we have the reasoning or the argument in this particular paragraph. Okay, so what did we have? We had intro, right? You had approach, you had benchmarks, right? Then you had a dilemma. You had examples. For examples, between dilemma and examples, you had the explanations that elaborated the whole thing. Then you had examples. Then you had the reasoning. Then you have the argument. Let's look at the last paragraph. Infrastructure is a necessary, although not sufficient precondition for growth. Adequate complements of other resources must be present as well. The growth impact of infrastructure investments also depends on the timing and location of additions to capacity and on the existing imbalance between supply and demand, because much infrastructure consists of networks. Relieving bottlenecks at certain points of the system can produce very high returns. Okay, so it is talking about a broader framework. It is saying that you have been discussing about infrastructure, but you need other resources along with infrastructure, right? The growth impact of infrastructure depends on timing and location of the additions to capacity and on the existing imbalance between supply and demand. This was kind of covered, but timing and location of additions to capacity is a new point. Infrastructure consists of networks. This is something that you might not know. Sorry, you might know, but in the passage, this angle is being introduced for the first time, right? So relieving bottlenecks at certain points of the system can produce very high returns. Okay, so essentially in the last paragraph, you have external new info. And then what do you have? Relieving bottlenecks at certain points of the system can produce very high returns. You have a solution which is also kind of like the conclusion. You see, there was an introduction. Generally, there was a conclusion. At the heart of everything, basically an argument. Okay. Between introduction, argument, and conclusion, you had a lot of external information. You had a probable solution. You had how have you identified the problems. You had problems of the different elements of the problem. You had some reasoning and some examples associated with that problem, right? So this is basically the map that I have been talking about. This whole thing. This whole thing is basically a map that you need to build, and you need to build this not in this literal way of writing it down. Even if you think that writing it down is helping you, trust me, it will take a lot of your very, very valuable time. So we have taken a lot of time in making this map, but after you've practiced on enough passages, this approach will get inherently built in, and you will be able to create a mental map very, very similar to this map. All right. And now when the questions come, all you have to do is that, you can answer it in a very methodical manner, or if you think that you need to read the passage again, what part of the passage you need to go back to, whether you need to go back here, you need to go back here, you need to go back here, or wherever, and where they are situated, right? That intro, benchmark, dilemma, they are all here. Similarly, examples are here. Then where to find the conclusion, where you find the the primary argument and things like that. So this is the approach that will really help you in quickly reading a long passage and at the same time mapping it out so that you can answer questions well. In the next installment of this series, we will see questions that will be related to this particular passage. We have introduced a lot of variations in the questions as well, so that you can be prepared for any and every kind of questions that you can expect on the GMAT exam. So I will see you in the next installment of this video. Don't forget to subscribe so that, as and when we release the next video of the series, you are able to get the same. If you have not liked, please go ahead and like the video, because not only does it motivate us to bring more such content out for you guys, it also basically spreads the video to all other like-minded aspirants, and it really helps. And if you look at a preparation journey, it is really a good thing that you are able to help some other people as well, and that builds kind of like a good community of people who are preparing for this exam. So I'll see you in the next video. Till then, happy learning and keep preparing.